And good morning, everybody. I'm here with Linda Mitchell. We're pretending that we're back having coffee like we did all those years ago when I first met her. Hey, there we go. And we're going to have a little chat about all of her literacy work. So I'm going to begin with a question for Linda. I'm going to ask you to tell us about yourself.
Okay.
And tell us the story. Tell us that story that you first told me when we met at that coffee shop about your grandma and about the Imitate Reading Initiative. So let's start at that place. And Dr. B should stop talking and let Linda start. So here we go.
Well, hi, everybody. I am so pleased to be with you, Dr. Sam Bomarito. Wow. I met you a few years ago, as you said, and I told you that, well, first of all, I live in Illinois, which is across the river from St. Louis, but we both have a common passion, which is literacy. And the way mine developed is I found out when I was an adult that my grandmother, my mother's mother, could not read or write. And when I was a little girl, my grandmother would come over and visit, and I would see a strange thing. My mother would be sitting with her in the parlor reading letters to her. And they were letters from her son, my mom's brother, who was in the Navy. And yeah, I didn't know it as a little girl. I just thought, well, why is my mother reading to her mother? My mother reads to us, the children. Why is she reading to her mother? Well, I didn't find out till I was an adult that my grandmother couldn't read or write, my mom told me. She said that my grandmother was born and raised in Virginia. And somehow with her two other sisters, the family got divided up. And my grandmother went to live with a white family. And that family did not educate her. They just taught her how to cook and clean. And she didn't have any education. My grandmother could not even write her name. She couldn't count. She couldn't do anything educational. But she became a successful cook, an excellent cook in Chicago when she migrated to Chicago. And it's a very interesting story, which I have on my website, my YouTube channel. My mother explains the story of her mother, and it's very interesting how my mother helped her become a successful cook, helped her read those recipes. So I vowed when I found that out, when I was a young adult, I said, I'm going to help people learn how to read because reading was just so important to me. I said, I don't want to see any adult not able to read. So that's been my journey. That's been my theme.
Okay, I was impressed back then, and I'm impressed again now. Before we get into some of the wonderful things you're doing, and my readers need to know that you are just doing several amazing projects here in the St. Louis region. But give us a little bit. I noticed the river's there in the background, and we're looking at the arch, but that's kind of like looking at it from where you live.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about where you live, East St. Louis, the community that you're doing so much wonderful work for, and tell us about its relationship within the St. Louis region.
Right, yes, you are looking at the St. Louis Arch, which is in the state of Missouri, and I'm across the river in Illinois. So we're separated by this beautiful river, the mighty Mississippi River. And the community that I live very close to is East St. Louis, Illinois. East St. Louis used to be many decades ago a very vibrant community with manufacturing jobs. My husband's from there. In its heyday, it had a meat packing plant, just a lot of great businesses. Now, the great people of East St. Louis are still there. The motto of the city is City of Champions. So you've got people like Jackie Joyner-Kersee, the Olympic champion. She's from East St. Louis. However, if you visit East St. Louis today, you will see that it is in very much of a decline. There are a lot of blighted areas. I would say like 99, I wish I had my stats in front of me, but about 99% of the population is African American. Most of the majority of the children in the 90% are on the free lunch program. And it's a really economically depressed area. But there are so many wonderful people there who are trying to turn things around in that city. And that's what I get excited about. But for me, nothing can happen unless we have the children able to read. And the reading scores in East St. Louis are very low. They're not reading on grade level. So this is one of my missions, is to get in there and try to change that. Because if you can read, I believe you can read yourself out of poverty. And my motto is literacy. Literacy is liberation. It takes you higher. So that is my mission.
Okay, and a mission I might add, you're doing very, very well with. You have a new book. So I'm going to ask you to screen share and show us the cover of that book, and then just tell us a little bit about it and some of the important takeaways from your book. Okay, I can see it there.
If I can screen share. My screen is kind of messy. I've got a lot of junk on there. So
oh, don't worry about it. Then we also show us that book one more time.
Yeah, don't do that.
Well, tell us all about this, how it got.
Well, this book is called "How Are You Today? A Celebration of Children's Emotions." I see if I'm going to cover up my face, but you'll see. And inside, this is a over 10-year dream come true. And I had a first version that I self-published and had maybe printed about 150 copies and sold them out of my trunk of my my car. And so they're all gone. But my dream was to have it redesigned. And so that happened this year with this wonderful company, my friends out of Texas. And the whole goal of the book is to help children be able to name their emotions. You know how parents always say, use your words, or teachers say, use your words. But sometimes kids don't have the words. They don't know how to say, I'm frustrated, I'm nervous, I'm tired, I'm sleepy. So in this book, from A to Z, all the way from athletic to zany, there are emotion words. Not only the words, like for example, a page will say, I'm feeling excited. Oops, oh, that's just terrible. I'm feeling excited. But there's a question at the bottom and an emoji, and the interactive question is, what makes you feel excited? And so the parent or caretaker who's ever engaging with the child and reading the book to them will start a conversation. And I think kids need to have that conversation this year. Ooh, what a tough year for children. Oh my goodness, 2020. They haven't been able to go to school, many of them, in person, or they're doing a virtual learning. And I was thinking about my little granddaughter just starting kindergarten. She wasn't even able to go to kindergarten in Chicago. And usually that's where you form your friendships. So this is a really tough year for kids, wearing masks. And so they are experiencing a lot of emotions and a lot of trauma. And so I believe that children, they need to talk this out with adults. And that's what this book is going to do. It's going to tap into those emotions and get those conversations started. And kids are going to learn about themselves, and parents are going to learn about themselves. And it's really exciting. I love that, being a teacher, of course, I've got to teach. I've got a vocabulary list in the back of the book. I've got discussion questions. And it's just really nice. Now, the photographs in the book, the majority of them were taken by my husband when our kids were growing up. So the kids in the book are my children when they were little. They're in their 30s now, and then I've got some other photos because I wanted to be multicultural. So it represents, a lot of cultures. But living with the photographer, my husband, Odell Mitchell Jr., is a professional photojournalist. He worked for the local newspaper, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. I can say it. For 24, 25 years. And so he'd come home and the camera would be right there. So he would capture the kids, capture them in candid moments, brushing their teeth, even potty training. That's going to be in another book. but all kinds of pictures of them growing up, and not just the pose picture. It's your birthday, so gather around the cake, we'll take a picture. No, these are all day, every day activities that children normally do. And he always says that's very, very important to capture those moments, not just the posed ones. So I love that we get to collaborate on this project together.
Okay, and it gives us hope, those of us who uh, would like to publish something, that that can happen. And you've gone from self-published to having an actual publisher.
Well,
Get
let me correct it. No, no, it is still self-published, but
Oh,
it's
I'm sorry.
very, very well done by my new redesigners.
Okay.
It's just, I think they did such a beautiful job. And so yeah, it's still self-published because I do like having that control.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely have a link to the book on the website.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Now, another thing you do, and I'll mention, and I think you already have, that wonderful picture of St. Louis was taken by your husband,
Yes.
the one that's in the background there. But I know that you now do local video casts, and you've done quite a number of them. So tell us about that, and give us a couple of highlights.
Yeah. Now that's really a passion project for me because, literacy, it's not something you would turn on the TV and hear about the low literacy rates in the United States. You wouldn't hear about that on the news. It's not, there is a crisis in this country with literacy. We've got 60 million Americans who, and don't quote me on that, I'm sorry, who are illiterate. 70% of the prison population, they're illiterate. So I want to bring attention to this subject and show people how important literacy is in their everyday lives. We don't even think about it. We take it for granted. So in my YouTube series, Literacy Journeys with Linda, I interview people from different walks of life and ask them to tell me about their literacy journey. One of the latest interviews I did, I love it. It's with a retired blind judge about his literacy journey. He was a judge for over 20 years, and I asked him, how in the world were you able to, first of all, become a lawyer and do the work of a lawyer being a blind person? And so he explains that, how in college, and he graduated from Yale with a math degree, and he graduated from the University of Southern California, took the bar exam, and he did all of this before the Americans with Disabilities Act. So he had a lot of accommodations and a lot of help from people reading his textbooks for him, recording his textbooks for him. And it is a great story of triumph for him, being a blind person who is literate. Another interesting person I interviewed is Julius Anthony from St. Louis. He started the Believe Project, and he's an author himself, and he's partnered with Scholastic Books, and they're getting all these wonderful books by Black authors into the St. Louis public schools, and it's really great. I interviewed a man who worked on a railroad all his life, and you would think, now, how does literacy play in your job as a railroad? It's very interesting. And of course, my two passions, my children, I interviewed them. My daughter is a singer, songwriter, performer in New York. And I asked her, how does literacy play in her work as a creative artist? Woo, she's so articulate, and she gave a wonderful answer about how she couldn't even be a performer without being able to read and write, and all the storytelling that she heard growing up. I would tell her stories all the time. And it's a funny story in her video about the vocabulary challenge. It was really great. And then my son, who's an attorney, woo, how in the world, there's no way, he explains, he could be an attorney without knowing how to read. And he credits all that reading that we did when he was a child, that he was very comfortable with reading all those cases. So it's a wide range of people, a TV broadcaster, a social worker, a community organizer. I really encourage people to check that out on my YouTube channel, Literacy Journeys with Linda.
Okay, and I do as well. And I'll put an extra plug-ins for Julius Anthony and his work with the Believe Project. I'm hoping to get him on my blog interviews sometime very soon.
Yeah.
He's just doing some amazing things in the St. Louis region. and we are now getting into a partnership with St. Louis Public Schools with Julius and the St. Louis Black Authors.
Yes.
And the other thing that I'm super impressed with is the role model you are for parents. As a parent yourself, and the
Oh,
things that you've done,
no way.
is just you're just amazing. So
Thank you.
I and speaking of amazing, tell us now, and we'll close up with you telling us a little bit about the Metro East Literacy Project and the things you're doing. I especially love that you're getting books into the hands of not just children, but also the adults, because
Yeah.
that's so important. So tell us a little bit about that, and this gives you a chance to make a pitch to my readers for them to support your work. So
Yeah.
let's hit that topic for a moment.
Well, Sam, you know, children always get children's books at schools or all these organizations, they're getting their children's book. But I noticed something because I was a parent educator for parents as teachers for several years for the St. Louis public school districts. And I would go into on home visits, over 1,000 home visits over the years. And I noticed little children are going to do what they see their parents doing. They're going to imitate them. Parents create that culture in the home. And if we can have a culture of reading in the home, children will imitate that. So I believe in getting books in the hands of parents, the adults, so that they can read. And then their little child will see, oh, this is important, this is interesting. Not that they'll consciously think that, they just want to do what mommy and daddy are doing. And they'll pick up a little book and they will want to read as well. And I actually tested this theory when I was at the St. Louis Public School. When the parents would come and register, I had a whole shelf set up with free books for parents. And of course, the little kids had their little area with their children's book. And I saw a mom grab a book off the shelf, and she's sitting in a chair, waiting her turn, reading her book. And her little daughter came over with her little book and sat right next to mom and wanted to be just like mom and read her little book. And just a light bulb just kept going off in me. How can we get kids interested in reading? Well, if their parents are interested in reading, if the parents are creating that culture of reading in the home, then that's a way for kids to get interested in reading. However, parents need the books. So I provide at different events that I do, when I have my table set up, free books for parents. And I love it when they come by and pick up the books. And then I have a little bit of books for the kids, but my emphasis is the books for the parents. I call this the Imitate Reading Initiative. I've got a study coming up, and you know, the pandemic threw off all our plans. I was just about to do a study with the university on this idea. And so hopefully we'll get to do that next year. So we'll have evidence that the theory of parents reading not only to their children, but in front of their children is very empowering for the parents and for the family. And that's just my idea, you know, because kids will, like I said, kids will do what their parents do. And here's the thing, Sam, remember what I told you? Because I've gotten this question, what the parent says, well, I don't know how to read. You know what? The parent doesn't even have to know how to read. Because if they can the idea is just holding a book, modeling it. It's the same way. If a little kid has a little toy kitchen at home and the parent is on the stove stirring something in the pot, the kid has their little toy kitchen, they're stirring something. The kid has no idea, if it's a little kid, they have no idea whether what the parent is cooking is actually tastes good, they're putting the right seasoning, if the parent is actually doing a good job. They just say, oh, the parent's having fun stirring, cooking, and the kid wants to imitate that. So that power of imitation can really change, can really make a difference. And that's what the Imitate Reading Initiative is all about.
Okay, well, that is fascinating. I can't wait for you and Julius to work on those kinds of things. And I'm just excited that we have the very, very strong literacy interest in the St. Louis region, and you're part of that. And I wish you well with all of your work.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for that university study.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Well, that's part of my,
most of all, I
that-
can't wait for 2020 to be over and to get a little bit back into more normal. So, any final thoughts here?
woo, yeah.
We're going to wrap things up.
So, all of this is what I'm devoting my life to. Like I said, oh, I'm in the last third of my life. I don't have time to fool around with things that I'm really not passionate about. So literacy and helping the people in this region become aware of how important literacy is. It changes lives. You know what I notice, Sam? Whenever I see somebody speaking on TV, a prominent person, it seems like they always have a book. They always say, well, I wrote a book, read this book. It could be Malcolm Gladwell. It could be, it could be anybody. They always have a book. So somebody's still reading. People are still reading. I mean, what does reading do for you? It changes your life. It opens up your mind. I don't want people to miss that. I don't want people to miss that. So the Metro East Literacy Project, my nonprofit, I want to promote literacy and create an awareness of how important reading is to people's lives.
Well, I want to thank you for being on this broadcast. I am just very, very pleased that you were able to come today. I hope my readers get excited about your project, and I wish you well in your future endeavors. And so from my side of the river to your side of the river, I'm going to give you, this is a famous way to end things. It's the Zoom wave. Goodbye. And here we go, ending with the Zoom wave, and best of luck to you in the upcoming school year. And thank you for all of the literacy work you're doing.
Thank you, Sam. It's my honor to know you.
Okay. Whoa. Okay. Well, Linda, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.